Alright guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So Connor Hughes of SNY recently reported that there's some people within the Jets organization that are high on Washington Commanders quarterback Sam Howell. And as we all know, Washington looks set to be picking a quarterback right up at the top of the draft at spot number 2, whether that's Jaden Daniels from LSU with Drake May, who knows? Right, we still have so much time before, from now until the draft, combines, private workouts, pro days, so much stuff to get into. But we do know that Sam Howell is still a young quarterback that flashed, frankly, a lot last season. This is somebody who threw for 21 touchdowns, 3,900 passing yards, right? 54 passing yards away from 4,000. He had a completion percentage of 63.4 last year and showed off some really, really impressive stuff, right? Footwork, ball placement, deep ball accuracy, right? Personally, I feel like Sam Howell in a system that really utilizes play action, I think there could be something there, right? At the end of the day, Sam Howell is only 23 years old, 6'1", so a bit on the shorter end. But I mean, as a sophomore, and keep in mind, he was playing for the Commanders, right? This is a team that had an absolutely horrendous defense and an absolutely horrendous offensive line. In fact, he was actually sacked 65 times last year. Now, of course, not every single sack was because of the offensive line failures. Some were on Sam Howell trying to hold on to the football for too long, trying to make a play out of nothing. But being sacked 65 times is, you're getting hit a lot, right? That's not even factoring in the quarterback hits. So if you're a young quarterback out there and you're getting hit a ton, you don't really have a lot of faith in the offensive line. Of course, there's going to be mistakes in the air. Sam Howell threw 21 interceptions a year ago, right? So 21 TDs, 21 picks, actually led the NFL in interceptions. I mean, there were games out there where he looked lost, 4 INTs, right? He was actually benched when the Commanders played the Jets at the end of the season for Jacoby Brissett. That game looked like a shoe-in win for the Jets, right? They pull Sam Howell out, they insert Jacoby Brissett. All of a sudden, the Commanders are knocking on a door. The Jets blew this this multi-score lead, and we had to walk off in the end thanks to Greg Zuerlein, who, frankly, was absolutely amazing for the Jets throughout the entirety of 2023. But just because he had a bad game here or there, or just because he got benched against the Jets, doesn't necessarily mean, or even, throwing the 21 picks, it doesn't mean that Howell is done. It does not mean that he is incapable of getting better, incapable of taking care of the football. I think there's positives here and negatives when you look at a potential Jets acquisition. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because it really does seem like Zach Wilson will probably be moved somewhere else. The Jets clearly need a backup quarterback. In the event that the Jets move Wilson, we wouldn't have a young developmental quarterback on the roster. So again, there's really two different angles that you can look at it from, right? Let's take the positive one first. Sam Howell is a young quarterback that threw for just under 4,000 passing yards. In his second year, again, in a not so ideal situation considering the defense and the offensive line, right? If you have somebody like that who can sit a year behind Aaron Rodgers, and you would like to think that in time, when Howell takes over, the team will be more built around him, talking about personnel-wise, right? Keep in mind, this is before free agency. We don't know about the additions that are going to be made on the O-line. We don't know if we're going to go out and sign, a Calvin Ridley or something like that. We don't know who's going to be the 10th overall pick, right? So fast forward a year, so the start of 2025, you're looking at the Jets, I would assume it's going to be a roster that's built up more if Joe Douglas plays his cards correctly. Not only would he just be learning from Aaron Rodgers, but having an entire season on the bench would be good for him, right? Again, he's coming off a season where he turned the football over a ton. There was a lot of pressure on him. Like we talked about before, he was benched at one point late in the season. I think it might be really good for Sam to kind of get out of the Washington situation, especially if they draft Drake May from the same school, North Carolina, who May replaced Howell at North Carolina. So maybe it's a weird dynamic there, maybe not. But I think he would have no pressure on him. I don't really believe it would take a lot to go get him. It would, require a draft pick, right? We would have to give something up to go get him. But another huge benefit, he was a 5th round pick, and he spent 2 years in the NFL. So you have him under contract for 2 more seasons on a extremely cheap price, right? Think of like Brock Purdy with the 49ers, how much more cap flexibility the Niners have. Think about, just in your head, go down the list of great players that the Niners have. You can sit here and literally break down player after player for 15 minutes. Right, Kinlaw, Bosa, Gregory, Ayuk, Debo, Kittle, McCaffrey, Trent Williams, all these different guys, right? Fred Warner, Greenlaw. The main reason why they can do that, load this team up, is because the quarterback is hardly getting paid anything. So Sam Howell will be coming in at an extremely cheap price. So from that angle, right, the positive angle, it does really make a lot of sense. Now, of course, the other side of the coin, some of the negatives, the negatives that we do have to bring up. Number one, Sam Howell doesn't really check the box of a veteran quarterback that can step in immediately if something were to happen to Aaron Rodgers and lead this team to the promised land, right? I mean, a lot of Jets fans are talking about Jacoby Brissett being a realistic option. Last season, in that Commanders-Jets game, this is kind of like a microcosm of what I'm talking about. Right, Brissett came in when something happened to the starter, Sam Howell. He had to be benched. Brissett came in and, I don't want to say saved the day, but he gave the Commanders a chance. They roared back against New York and almost won that football game. You know, you could go down the list of all these different veteran quarterbacks that could make sense: Tyrod Taylor, Gardner Minshew, Marcus Mariota, Jameis Winston. There's so many veteran quarterbacks that are going to be hitting the market. So many guys that you kind of feel really comfortable with, right? You know what you're getting. And when it comes to a veteran backup quarterback on a win-now football team, backing up Aaron Rodgers, you kind of want to be, especially coming off 2023, right? Seeing how everything played out. You want a guy who you know what he brings to the table. You know what he's going to look like every single Sunday. He's the same guy every single week. It's not great game, horrible game, 3 touchdowns, 4 picks, week to week. It's too up and down, too crazy, too erratic. Right, with the Tyrod Taylor, you're not going to be getting these humongous, fantastic wins and then these horrendous losses. No, the offense is going to look pretty much the same. Again, from a week-to-week basis here. So he doesn't really fill that need, right? If something, now, it's not to say that he couldn't step in and look good, look effective, because I do feel like Howell would give the Jets a fighting chance. But the floor with Sam Howell does not seem that high. It does seem like he has that implosion tendency, right, where the game is just lost within the first, in the first couple of quarters if things aren't going his way. Another negative here, we would have to go out and give the Commanders something to go get him. And you can make the argument, all right, well, if the Jets are interested in a young quarterback, just go out and draft one in the middle rounds this year, right? Draft a young quarterback. Now all of a sudden you're paying that young quarterback, a developmental quarterback, a really cheap contract for the next 4 seasons as opposed to 2. And you're giving up a draft asset to go get Howell, and he's for 100% for sure not going to be the starting guy because he's coming in to back up Aaron Rodgers, right? So, in a perfect world, you could go out and draft that developmental guy this year, not give up a draft pick, right? Have him sit behind Rodgers for this season, maybe next year, and then he's ready to step in as the starter with 2 years of development, 2 years sitting behind A-Rod, and he would have the same exact amount of time left on his contract as Howell does at the start of this upcoming season. So this is kind of my take on the situation, or what I would want to happen. I think if the Jets were to go out and trade, let's just say, a 5th round pick for Sam Howell when, the window opens, we get him in the building, I'm going to be pumped up, right? I do think there is something to him. I do feel like there are strengths to his game that you can build around. But with that said here, I want a veteran too. I have no problems with the front office identifying a young quarterback and saying, this guy could be our future. This is somebody who we feel good about right now as an organization, from a coaching staff perspective, from a front office perspective. We can go out and acquire him, and we feel good about the plan in place, the development plan. I have no problems with an organization taking that step, taking that proactive initiative, right? But I just don't want it to be it. Again, Howell isn't a sure thing. And it's not to say that Tyrod Taylor is amazing or Gardner Minshew is amazing or a top 10 quarterback, but you know what those guys are going to be every single Sunday. If Rodgers gets hurt in week 1, yeah, it's going to be pretty fun and exciting to see what Howell can bring to the table, but it is a bit of a mystery at this point in time. What are we really going to be getting if Howell has to play next season with the new team, with the new offensive coordinator? It's interesting. Right, it is interesting. So again, my perfect world, my perfect plan here is, again, if the Jets have identified Sam Howell as, hey, this guy, he could really be the quarterback of the future for this football team. Go trade a late round pick for him. Go get him in the building. You're not going to be really paying him anything, really at all, and then go out and make the move for a veteran backup. If something happens to Rodgers, it's going to be tough for sure, but at least you have a solid veteran in place, and then Howell would be QB3, I guess at that point elevated to QB2. That way Howell has no pressure on him, right? It's kind of I think it's kind of the plan that a lot of Jets fans hoped for Zach last season, right? Rodgers starter, please bring in a backup quarterback, Bridgewater, whoever it was going to be, and then have Zach as the QB3, and don't even mess with Tim Boyle or Trevor Siemian or whatever, rip in at the end of the season. Wilson is QB3, veteran is QB2, Rodgers is QB1, and that's the plan. Spend the money, make it happen, right? So let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section on it. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, go Jets.